I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could you take the roll, please, ma'am?
I shall. Mr. Bento.
Yeah.
Mr. Cody. Ms. Durfee.
Here.
Mr. Mello, Mr. Leonard absent. Mr. Souza.
Here.
Ms. Janik is here. Ms. Epke.
Is here.
Mrs. Cook.
Here.
Mrs. Odell.
Here.
And Mrs. Driggs.
Here.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion about the start time of this meeting, but we had a minor disconnect along the way. And fortunately, the town attorney was in the office when we realized it. He gave us a solution, so, which was easy to do. Okay. We're going to, okay, we've got review the minutes, vote on the minutes. Mrs. Janik.
I'll make a motion.
You were not here, okay,
Okay.
that's right.
I'll make a motion that the minutes be approved.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, all opposed? So voted with
Abstain.
one,
Absent.
with 2 abstentions and 2, we got enough for a quorum? God, I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to continue with the budget presentations. I hope we can get through this tonight. But if we don't, we'll just carry it over. I got a couple of things to say later. Recreation, you?
Yeah.
And you just do everything, aren't you?
But it's quick. Before we get started
That's
on
long enough.
before we get started on recreation, the document is long enough and complicated enough without having version control issues. So just for the record, what I handed out tonight before the meeting started, that the council-approved budget
Right.
is scrubbed, dubbed, I's dotted, T's crossed.
And
Please use this version. Don't look at anything else anybody else has sent you. This is the version that was time-stamped after the final vote by the council Saturday.
Saturday, that's what I want.
Yep.
And Saturday was,
Saturday was right around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Saturday was the 7th? 5th?
no,
5th.
7th was Monday,
Fifth.
6/5, 3/5.
3/5.
Okay.
All right, that's good.
Recreation. We don't have a commission. We have an appointment coming up each of the next 2 council sessions. After that, we should have quorum. So in the meantime, I'm rolling most of the accounts forward based upon their usage.
What page is that on?
And so you're at the last page,
21.
21. To explain the accounts, beaches are self-explanatory. We have lifeguards, certified lifeguards at both beaches. The salary line reflects pretty much their actuals.
So there's an increase in the expenses then?
Yes. Beach expenses is where we expense all of the, what would typically be facilities management maintenance costs. And we've been actually keeping up with the repairs at our beaches. So if a valve is broken on the showers, we replace it. We also last year had to pump out both cesspools. It didn't look like anybody had pumped out Fogland for about 20 years. And then we had some minor repairs at, for the cap of the septic at Grinnell's. So we're budgeting for a little bit more careful maintenance of those structures. Summer recreation, I'll just keep going unless somebody's asking me to ask a question. Summer recreation directors and counselors reflects 2 different programs.
Can I just ask one quick
Yep.
question about Grinnell's?
Be-
Is
beaches.
that beach open now? Because there was talk that it wasn't going to be.
So our latest estimate from the forecasting mavens at RIDOT is that we should leave the beach open this year, continue to charge the parking fees, leave the beach open, swimming and fishing undisturbed. They plan to go out to bid all this summer and begin their construction this fall, if they keep to their own schedule. So the beach, we should not lose a beach season, which to me is good news.
This year meaning this summer.
Right. We should not lose a beach season at all if they work according to the schedule that they've promised.
Okay.
Anything else
Scary
on-
that it makes sense.
Yeah, this is Rhode Island, so that's not going to last long, but we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Directors and counselors, we have two programs, just so everyone understands. We have a summer camp, which when it's full, it actually turns money back to the town. So the tuition that's charged to the summer camp kids is more than enough to carry the expenses, including anything else we do. So anything else outside of town. So last year, the budget was managed very well by Mrs. Gill, who got us field trips and education and Audubon and all the rest of it, and still turned money back to the town.
Nice.
Where we did not make any financial sense, frankly, was the so-called Parks program, which is the very traditional and time-honored and appreciated program in Tiverton, where we just have we have counselors at the parks, and parents sign the kids up for like $75 and drop them off, or they don't drop them off, depending on what their mood is. And the problem with that lack of commitment is we don't know, so we staff that program every single day for the appropriate ratio of adults to kids. And if only half the kids show up, we're overstaffed. And that's what happened this year, so that program lost money.
Don't you think this past year was because they were trying to put the fees up and some people just didn't sign up at all?
Well, it's two different programs. So the people who didn't want to participate in the summer camp asked for the Parks program to come back, and it was restored.
Okay.
Now, it was late, so some of the kids may have made other commitments, but it's just not, again, I said that night, and I'll say it again, I don't have any sort of ideological opposition to subsidizing recreation for kids in the summer. I mean, taxpayers can look to that service. It's just that this one's a tough one, because what's the value? What are we delivering for $75?
But what I'm saying is maybe if it starts on time, this coming year will be more people more often.
If we'll still have the same problem. Because if you don't charge enough, then it's not a commitment that I make to make my kid go every day or to take my kid every day. Because if it's just $75 and we have something more entertaining and more interesting to do, we'll do that. But meanwhile, the town is sitting there anticipating that you're going to bring the kids. So even if you have double the enrollment, at some point, you'd have to hire more counselors to have the proper ratio of kids to adults, right? So you're always going to be in that unpredictable situation. Somewhere, there's a happy medium between how much you have to charge so that people will come when they say they're going to come, and how much you pay your counselors. And last year was an experiment. This year, we're going to see how it goes. That's the,
So on the revenue page, you brought in like so far 8,700. What kind of, is that what that figure is? Camp programs and park programs?
yeah. Transportation fees and equipment and supplies. That's all the outdoor toys, balls, all the supplies that go, arts and crafts, everything that goes into it. Winter recreation, that's the Christmas tree lighting. Field rehab is not the same as preventive maintenance, so I'm comparing two different accounts. Field rehab is when we have a field that is so badly damaged or has been unmaintained for so long that we actually do a significant project. We typically try to bid those out, because that individual job will be over the bid threshold. So that's how we cast that project. We call it field rehab. The only rehab we have this year is going to be Sylvia Field, which if you don't have kids or grandkids in the system, that's the Little League field at the top of Town Farm, near the parking lot, closest to Pardon Gray. So that field is just a horrific mess. It's actually very dangerous. All the lips, all the clay material has bled into the outfield and the infield, and so there's uneven surfaces. So I walked the fields today with the town's longstanding contractor just to get a sense of what's going on. Preventive maintenance,
Who is the contractor?
McGee.
Okay.
So that'll be 4,000 additional? It'll be 7,600 to do that?
That's the increase over the petitioner's budget, the approved budget from last year. I think we've always had a substantial sum in that line.
No.
No?
Budget committee recommended, and the council
Only 3,500?
recommended 3,500.
Yeah.
That was not the petition.
76 is going to be about right.
Because in 2015, this last fiscal year, you spent 11,500.
Yeah. And that included, we stripped the infield at Bulga Marsh Park, the softball field, the menus. It was a safety issue. It's also an ongoing maintenance issue, so we will no longer have to maintain that infield at Bulga Marsh Road. It's just going to be bluestone. And the guys prefer that anyway. Preventive maintenance, we break up, because those are supplies that we dump over all the fields, whether it's agricultural limestone or fertilizer or insect control, which we prefer not to use, but we do use when it's necessary. So that's a system-wide expenditure as opposed to the maintenance.
And why is that down from,
It's a switch. If you look at it, it's a switch from one to the other, just trying to categorize things properly.
There's been an issue with that for quite a while.
Yeah.
And if you look at the audit, that's about spent 7,000, so
Yep.
between 7 and 8, so.
So the winter recreation, it cost $2,100 for the Christmas tree lighting?
Yeah, they actually spent more than that. And they, I think they also scored the trunk or treat to that same account, to that line item. That's Halloween.
And overall, the budget is coming down.
Overall, it's down $2,000. And that's down from the prior year. I don't have the summary in front of me. I think the prior year was closer to 120.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, that was what was recommended.
Yeah. So it's down again.
Okay. That's you for recreation?
I believe so.
Good. Economic development?
That can be me too.
That'd be you too? I want to just call on you.
Page is that on?
I feel like one of those Swiss Army knives, you know?
You are.
You can open a bottle of wine, you can can of beans.
Whatever you,
I don't know what page it's on.
9.
Page 9.
We really cut them back.
I had already cut it back. At Saturday's meeting, there was nobody here from the commission, and I didn't even defend my own budget, Ms. Durfee.
we gonna spend much time on this?
No, please don't. In other words, I don't support the special projects, and I don't support brochures.
Okay.
The special project is above our means to carry through, and brochures, I think, went the way of, you know, your website is your brochure.
Makes sense. All right.
And the Economic Development Commission, Scott Humphrey, isn't he the chair?
Mhm. They asked for what they asked for. But that column, that's them.
So their main focus was the brochure and the special projects and
Yeah.
events.
The brochure hasn't, that account hasn't been spent out in years,
Right,
Yes.
right.
so.
That's, yes, that's,
What exactly do they do? Because when I look at their minutes of the meeting, it's sort of like a rehash of what's going on in town and all the different committees and what's going on in town. I'm like, almost like a nurse's report from, I'm like, what's the point of it? I'm just trying to figure out, like, we pay for the state, and that's a disaster, Economic Development Commission. I mean, they're up on fraud. And then we're in, what, Newport, the Newport one? I mean, what are we getting from this? And this, how come we need 3? Who's doing what? And what are we getting from it?
Well, you see, I cut them, so
Yes, their
the
budget
the
is
council cut them.
$500.
I don't care if it's 500 or if it's $1. I'm trying to ask, what are we getting from it? What exactly?
I think you're gonna
other
need-
than
I think you're gonna need to
they
ask
have
them.
What's going on in town?
I think you're going to need to ask them. I think the budget decisions I've made reflect my point of view.
Yes.
In the charter, they have 4 specific duties that they are to carry out.
Okay, do they do them? And what?
Well, can I just make a suggestion, Donna? It's not, we're here to focus on the numbers, the council approved that.
But it
If
has
we
to be
don't want-
supported. It has to be supported by what they do. You can't just give money just because it's a nice thing to do. It says that it has to be supported.
If
Now,
the
I'm
chart,
not-
if the charter,
It doesn't say you have to give them money, but you can have it.
so you don't want to give
them.
them, so you don't want to give them $500?
That's not what I said. I said that the charter says you can have all these committees. It does not say you have to give them a certain amount of money or any money at all.
Okay.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
then our recommendation should be either to fund them more or fund them less than $500. If you want to
I
have a
can't-
discussion about the Economic Development Commission, that discussion would be more appropriately taken up with the council or a charter review commission or someone who can really speak
Because
to
we're
it.
going to okay the budget.
Well, no,
If-
not necessarily. We're just getting the figures right now.
Yeah.
And then we can have a discussion about it.
She's saying that the discussion should be with the town council or?
No, that's about whether or not to even have
Yes.
an EDC.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, next.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we were on the right page.
Harbor Commission?
You are back near the police, if I'm not mistaken.
Good evening. I'm
How
Bruce
are you?
Cox, I'm Chair of the Harbor Commission, and this is
16,
Tyler
page
Lemos.
16.
Lemus, excuse me.
Where is it?
16.
Tyler Loomis, who is your harbor master.
Right.
There, page 16, is that what I understood?
Okay, now that we've done that. All right, go for it. What have we got?
Yours.
Mine first, Harbor Master first? or-
So, it doesn't matter whichever one you decide to do. We've got them both here, so.
I'm looking at what was proposed and council approved in our recommendation. We have a $300 line item in the commission for commission budget. That will probably be utilized for applying for a water quality permit from DEM. It's a state fee to get finally get our harbor management plan approved. Last year, we couldn't do it because we had no money. And we were also trying to deal with another, what is candidly a political issue, dealing with SA waters and moorings. We had asked for, and initially the town administrator said no, and then he reinstated it when he heard our explanation, for $5,000 to do a mooring field analysis of the basin, not of all our mooring fields, just of the basin. And if you look at the basin and you look at the two towns, Portsmouth on the west and ours on the east, if you look at them as you're going across the bridge, and I don't think you can see it from the walking bridge, Portsmouth's moorings are private moorings, they're commercially lined up moorings, they're all set in a particular line. Moorings on the Tiverton side are not so organized. The commercial gentleman's doing it because he wants to have as many moorings as he can and make money with them. Over the last years, 20 years ago, there was no such thing as a Coastal Resource Management Council requirement of harbor management plans and the designation and layout of mooring fields. So people would just put moorings in haphazardly. We have the authority within our regulations to direct people to relocate their moorings, but we need to be able to tell them where. There's a waiting list to be put moorings in the harbor, in the basin. Theoretically, we have 18 more moorings and numerically that we're allowed to put in accordance with our harbor plan and CRMC regulations. We don't know where we can fit them in because it's so haphazard. Boats perform differently. Bigger boats require more space and deeper water. Smaller boats require less space and less water. It only seems logical, but you will also find small boats in good deep water, which prohibits a large boat from being there. We've recommended, and it's been adopted by the town council, a scaled mooring fee for the 2017 year, not the 2016 year, wherein a small boat, under 20 feet, is only charged $25 for their mooring, because they only take up a little space.
120?
No, 25.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, 25. 125 would not be unusual in a lot of towns.
I was gonna
But,
say,
but,
yeah.
no.
Not
But
here.
the highest fee that, of the current boats that are in the area, that are on our roster of boats, would be about $146. And that's for a larger boat. It's a three-tiered system where you have the base boat, then you have a boat between, I have it here if it's of any interest to you. You have a 20-foot boat where you have a, let me get to it, boat length and fee. 21 through 31, you have a base fee plus a fee of $1.25 per foot over 21 feet, up to 31 feet. Then you have a base fee and $1.75 for boats over 32 feet. And the highest, the most expensive boat was a 45.5 foot boat, 45 and a half foot boat. That was $104. And that's not egregious at all. Competitively speaking, it's cheap. Bristol Harbor, where I have a mooring, as an owner, I would be paying, if I lived in Bristol, I would be paying something on the order of about $150, $175 living in Bristol. As a non-resident, I pay twice that. But the scale is certainly keeping, and it makes it more equitable. And the work that was done, and Dave Vanier should be credited with this, with the schedule and the fees that we came up with had a net effect, zero change to the town in terms of revenues. So by scaling this, we didn't cost the town any money, we're not making the town any extra money unless we get a whole bunch of bigger boats, which gets us into the issue of why do you spend money to analyze the basin? The reason you do is because you might be able to put more boats in there, satisfy more residents of Tiverton, and accrue more monies from those moorings. And you have a better, safer harbor. I mean, it's particularly with the bridge construction, there are several moorings up towards the bridge that were just crushed, if you will, by the barges and by the construction process. Like the reconfiguration of the bridges and such has changed the tidal flow through the basin. It's far faster than it once was. So those are issues that really should be addressed from a standpoint of safety concern. So that's where that $5,000 line item comes
Bruce,
uh,
from.
doesn't that also, doesn't the tide also affect, I mean, the tide, it's not just a question of small boats in closer to shore and out, because there's also, the tide runs differently in different places.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have boats swinging totally against.
Absolutely. You'll have boats that will, and you have the wind versus current issue as well. You know,
So that's what this analysis will figure out, where,
to the best of its ability. I mean, there's certainly a certain level of, by guess and by golly, because you do have different current streams, as you well know. You live on the water, you watch the boats, they're going both ways at times. But you want to try, right now it's haphazard. So we're trying, our goal would be to say, can we develop a process that makes it cleaner, safer, if you will, and get more consistency? And I would hope that, and I obviously can't guarantee, that would be accomplishable. It's an interesting situation. I mean, that's the whole, our all jumping up and down about the Stonebridge abutment about is because we've demonstrated that there's 80% more water running through the basin than there was before. They took out the turnstile and such up at the.
does it affect the east side more than the west?
I
Tiverton side more?
I don't know that. Our focus has been on the, on the bridge abutment and recognizing what different things that are taking place in the harbor. There is a back eddy that occurs on the north side of the bridge abutment, slightly to the west of it, that used to be 30 or 40 feet deep. It's now about 80 feet deep. It's just carving a hole down. So it's a curious, phenomenon. So we're trying to look forward, anticipation versus reaction, as it's far more cost-effective. And then the last item on that is the...
Yeah, I want to ask a
Certainly.
question, too.
Is that a one-time
That's
study, or
exactly
is
what I was...
Well, hopefully that would be a one-time study, and, we would want to get results. I mean, step one would be send out an RFP, try to design an RFP, request for proposals, to engineering firms and say, what kind of response do we get? They may come back and laugh at $5,000. I don't know. Engineers aren't cheap. You need to have a good engineer to do this analysis that understands what's going on with the water. But at least it's a start. And if they come back and say it's $15,000, we're going to say, okay, that's way out of the budget. And say, what can we do? What would the step one be? I'm not a big person for doing studies to do studies. It drives me bonkers.
I have one question. Will the water quality certificate, when received, limit the overall number of boats moored in the harbor?
It may have an effect on that.
Yeah.
It may have an effect on that, and that's, as I said, that's a political issue. When the Clean Waters Act was passed by the Congress, Rhode Island was not a non-discharge state. I believe that the Clean Water Act might be amendable to reflect that fact, and that's what I'm actually trying to contact our various representatives and congressmen.
That came later.
Yeah,
discharge.
the no discharge zone, and we were the first state to do it. So the SA waters say you shouldn't have moorings in certain fields. Now that we're
I
not...
must say, the analysis is long overdue. As you look at the number of moorings, it almost looks like the channel is being closed in.
Yeah, and I think some of them may very well be in the channel. That's sort of half the issue as well, and you need to correct that. But if we have the ability to put in additional moorings with smaller boats or wherever,
No, it makes sense.
it makes all the sense in the world. And the last expenditure, the $2,400, is for what has been a very successful water quality testing program, trying to analyze what is the source of the pollution that is present in the various waters of Tiverton. The problem is you have to start off in a bigger area and you say, where do we have pollution? Because you know you have some pollution. And then it's, okay, you get a hot spot over here, and you have to move over there, and it's an annual process. It's not something you just go out and quickly do. Chip Lawrence from Brown University, who's on our commission, has been the spearhead on that. And he has, we are moving these spots closer and closer to the hot spots, one of them being up in the Flesh Brook area. There's some problem there, and how do you point your finger? How do you find the source so you can say, here's the source of the problem, here, let's start working on that. We're focusing on E. coli bacteria, which is, waste, and trying to establish that. So that's been a very successful program. We now are actually listed and rostered in the URI website for water quality, and so we have now a baseline. If someone started doing something wrong, we'd be able to identify where the baseline was, and we're moving forward towards trying to resolve some issues. One issue that we believe we're aware of, is a protected individual by the Right to Farm Act. But we've identified it. So if someone wanted to try to approach that person in a not very pleasant way called a lawsuit, we'd be able to give them the data that says that's the source. And then there are avenues of forcing that person or encouraging that person to correct their behavior. Right now, they've been thumbing their nose at us because no one's been costing them any money. So that's for the next step. It's all, developing data to improve the water quality.
How do septic systems play into this, of houses all along?
I cannot tell you how septic systems play into it. I can tell you that we're not focusing on a septic system area, but we're not, for instance, down in Delano's Island in the pond, we're not testing there. It's not an area, it's not a quote-unquote hotspot, but up in Flesh Brook, something is coming down through there. So we're trying to get sharper and sharper in our focus there. So that's the gist of the Harbor Commission's budget. Next is the Harbor Master, and this is their line items recommended by the council.
All right, the salary, I left the same. I have the assistant harbor master still on there for 2,000. Uniform and clothing, still 300, no increase. Communications, 750, no increase. What else we got? And then we got office supplies and mess, $800, no increase. Boat operations, I did a $2,000 increase for unexpected repairs. Boat's getting older and dated. There's gonna be repairs that come up. I like to be able to have the fund to take care of it. And then,
You don't need to worry about the others since they're all just,
no increases
yeah,
at
they're
all.
all straight across.
And then I have a,
Ms. Durfin,
The boat operations shows a increase.
right.
2,000, yes.
Yeah, that's just because the upkeep of the boat.
Yeah, it's the older it gets, the more it's gonna need.
Still in good shape?
Yeah, still run, just put a new bracket on it, actually. Now, I did one capital expense, 5,000 for electronics upgrade. That'd be a one-time. Get rid of the old outdated electronics on there and put one screen. That'll do everything for me.
Where's that? I'm sorry.
Capital.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't have any questions. Everybody?
The revenue is gonna be down, the projecting, more of these, 55 in 2016, and we're projecting a forecast of 46.95, so it's going down.
Yes, it is down. We lost 20 moorings, 15 to 20 moorings from the Boathouse restaurant that they don't want to have moorings anymore, so that's why the revenue's down. But that opens more spots for other people to put moorings in. So as the year progresses, there will be more moorings being put in to make up for that lost revenue.
Hopefully. Hopefully. Yeah, I gave it a shot, I mean.
But
Unfortunately, those were prime moorings. Those were commercial moorings, so they were paying a maximum fee, but the Newport group took over the operation of the boathouse, and those were originally installed when the villages out on Mount Hope Bay went in, that everyone anticipated to get people that would want to have their boat out there in front of it. And I know there was a lot of chatter about, gee, it'd be great, and then it didn't happen. People didn't bring their boats, so they abandoned those moorings.
Well, and they didn't do the commercial development that they were expecting to do either, so.
That's right.
Can I ask you just to go back to the capital request, because the
Yes.
town administrator and council did not recommend that funding? Was that just a decision that we can't afford it now, or was there a specific reason? Are the electronics old?
yes, the dated and, I mean, they're getting older, they're gonna fail sooner or later, and GPS is in and out. If I could get one unit, it'd clear up the whole dash and all that, I would have one reliable unit, and it'd also make plotting the moorings a lot easier. I could put all the moorings on that one, and leave all the notes for every mooring and all the contact on that system.
Did you get any prices on this stuff yet?
Yeah, 5,000 would cover that. For a one display with radar and everything.
Tyler in his real job, not that the harbor master isn't a real job, but the pay is pretty paltry, works with Maritime Solutions. He's a professional in the field. So he's accurate with his numbers.
Yes. The reasoning behind not approving this request, was it just a matter of priorities?
Yes, matter of priorities.
Okay. So it's not like you're thinking that it's next year we can,
5,000 won't break the budget one way or the other, it's
Right.
just,
but there isn't any long, grander plan that this might fit into or anything like that. It's just, it's something that's needed, but it's lower on the priority list.
mhm.
Okay.
Matt, when you went over recreation, you didn't mention the capital Grinnell's closed cesspool demo. Can you explain that?
I thought we were going to do capital all at once,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
Well, because that's 5,000 too, so.
yeah, it is important to understand that we are, I mean, nobody's going to come down on us like a ton of bricks, but we are breaking the law, having cesspools within 200 feet of the mean high tide line. And it's our intention to remove those, and starting at Grinnell's, because we have 2 there, as part of the overall rehab of that entire area. The notion is that money would be our match, part of our match, for a grant that we're applying for through DEM.
I hate to belabor a small amount of money, but I just want you said something that clicked in my brain with the basin mooring analysis. How are the moorings plotted out now, on a piece of paper?
They are on a chart that we have, and we have the coordinates of them. But in terms of the layout of them,
So-
Wilson dropped it.
Okay, I picked up on the GPS part of that, so that they're not GPS, so to speak.
Well, no, I have coordinates on everything, but with the new GPS, I'd be able to go up to each mooring and put it into the actual GPS. So when I pull up on a mooring, I can have all their contact information on it. I mean, I can't do that on the old system. It beats going through a book, looking for every single one.
That's what I was getting at. Okay, good. Thank you.
Anything else with the harbor?
Well, I think that's about it.
That's it. Thank you much for your time. We
Can I
appreciate
just
it.
have one quick question? It just occurred to me. Do people request different kinds of moorings for different kinds of boats? So is some of it out of your control, what kind of mooring ends up being put in? I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, the thing that holds the mooring for different sizes.
The weight of the mooring would be decided by the size of the boat,
Okay,
and that's just generic
In
thing,
their-
kind of.
in their regulations, there's specific parameters of what size weight on the bottom you need, what kind of anchor you need
all right.
to hold a particular size of boat. And there's actually a gradient related to what's going on in the basin itself.
Right.
Because the scope on the moorings in the basin is tighter because of the tightness of the basin itself. So you need a larger weight at the bottom because you have a shorter scope. You have
Okay.
less of an angle, so you
All
have
right.
more pickup.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
For making the effort to come too.
Code enforcement. Is that you? Look at site.
You know, we went through quite a bit of this
Yeah.
last week, but.
Yeah, and he's
I
death
mean,
warmed over, so he left work today sick.
Okay.
It wasn't his intention not to come. It's just-
Want to hold it off?
I'd
significant?
rather you ask him detailed questions than me.
Well, the council, if I'm seeing this properly, the council approved the part-time building inspector.
Correct.
And the land use clerk.
It was, he wanted a full-time clerk, is that what he wanted?
And that's what we gave him.
So scratch the title. The title's not the same. Salary, clerk.
Laura, if you remember, it's called the land use clerk because of combining the planning board clerk with,
Right.
like I told you the other night, our philosophy was the planning board, the planner really needs his full-time administration help. And that's not a new position. So what we did was, we decided to give full-time help in there.
Denise or.
Yeah, Matt.
Okay,
or Matt.
You know what I'm saying?
okay, I'm
So
getting.
I don't. You now have a full-time clerk, land use clerk in the zoning office, and a full-time clerk for the planning department.
It's always there.
Yeah, I,
That's not a new position. The new
yeah,
position is
although
in-
she certainly was more than just a clerk. Okay. What will this, I'm including all our items because they all mush together, so. What will be the role, starting with the land use clerk in the zoning office? Or should we wait for Noel? I mean, for the.
So just for sake of clarity, that job description was written and this position was put in my budget request, but that job description was not approved. So I just got I gotta take a red line and put it through that title under code enforcement. It's just clerk. There's going to be another clerk there, and that clerk will provide back office support primarily to the zoning function.
And when you say that, Jody is presently providing that function,
Both.
both. So this would be in addition, of course,
Mm-hmm.
to what is there.
She would also fill in when Jody's not there, because in the past, the planning department person would do that, and some of her work left behind because she was over here working in that office.
So we have 3 full-time clerks now, 1 for planning and 2.
We had 2, we added 1.
Who's the two? I'm missing something.
All right, let me start all over. Start all over with what we have right now, today, in the ASME contract. You have Jody's position,
Which is the building zoning?
building zoning clerk,
Yeah.
and you have the planning clerk.
Right.
That's in the contract and funded in this year's budget. So forget what I proposed and just go to what's in the approved council budget, was the addition of 1 FTE into the building zoning official's office, based upon workload, responsibilities, etc.
Can I just ask
Plus the
something?
part-time building inspector. I mean, this may not be fair because he's not here. When you get a part-time building inspector, what pool do you draw upon for that role?
Probably the only pool that's available, which is primarily retired certified building officials who are willing to pick up this time under the 45-day rule, which you may be familiar with, or who are working in neighboring communities. Typically, right now, when our full-time building zoning official goes on vacation or is sick for a long period of time, we would backfill with one of these people already. So what I was hoping this part-timer would do, because I did request this in the beginning, is all the bottom inspections, all the foundation holes, decks, pools, all of those things that are relatively small and routine, but still require a human being to go out and physically observe and interact with the contractor and sign off on all of the inspection reports. And I would rather leverage Neil's time as a full-time professional looking at new home construction and commercial work, which is very involved and requires multiple returns, rough and finish inspection and all the rest of it. And to get the most out of Neil as I can as the zoning enforcement official, because we do field a tremendous number of complaints. We take them all with the same level of seriousness. We follow up on all of them. We've issued more NOVs since Neil has started than I think were issued in many years combined before that. So we're following up on a lot of work.
NOV meaning?
Notice of violation.
Matt, on the revenue side, inspection fees, every time this building inspector goes out, you charge a fee. Is that correct? Is that how it's,
It's part of the permit.
I guess, because I'm just looking at, for the 16 budget, it was 83,000 plus. Year-to-date, it's 34,000, and you're projecting for this year 57,000. So the fees are down. Your projection is they're down $26,000. How does that play into your need for
More people.
more people? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
did we actually realize that 83,000, or was that what was budgeted?
Not me.
Yeah.
That was budgeted for 16.
Right.
And year to date now, it's 34, so.
I just, I'm not entirely sure I agree with that revenue projection, to be honest with you, because I look at all of those subdivisions that have already been approved and have been extended year after year, so the tolling statute has been extended year after year. We have hundreds of units stacked up that could come through the pipeline. You drive
When?
up Boulder Marsh Road, you've got, Hawkins is already in the ground with one.
One.
No, that's what's done. That's not what's plotted out.
No, I understand that.
So, any given time, if you look at all of the pipeline, there is that work. I know that some days, when I'm trying to find Neil, he'll come back the next morning, because I don't get to him, and he says, I had 9 inspections yesterday. So if he's hung up or delayed at any point, that he doesn't even come into the office. And he could have skipped maybe 3 or 4 of those, because they were bottom inspections. You're just going out to the hole. Yep, that's a hole, right? I don't mean to demean it, but that's, for a guy with his expertise, that's what he's doing. He's looking at a hole.
Could I ask a question?
Can I, does it have to do with revenues? You
Go ahead, and
you
then I'm
go.
going to ask.
I'm, just want to follow up on Ms. Drake's question about the revenues, because I heard you say you don't particularly agree with that projection. How much involvement did you have with those projections?
Not much. Our department heads do most of their revenue projections based on what they see coming up in their pipeline.
So, okay, so the building inspector he approved that
Mhm.
projection?
Yes.
Okay.
With the revenues probably not spread evenly over 12 months.
No, it's not.
Absolutely not.
I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Springs, now
right,
you're gonna
it's
get it.
coming in now.
We looked at
The
it.
building inspector's review of revenues probably should be dovetailed with the planner.
Yeah.
Because the planner is going to be seeing what subdivisions are coming in and and tracking those for, I would think, the council should be something that is part of his monthly reports. And while you gave us some monthly reports as an example, quite frankly, I thought they were pretty inadequate. Because I think that the information the
That's
council
right.
needs
That's right.
is, where are the subdivisions? And what is the projected timetable? That does affect revenue and expenses, obviously.
For new construction, but an awful lot of what we get is additions, rehabs, remodels, pools, decks,
True.
that won't show up in the planner's
Right, it
documents.
would not. Right, but that would be the input from the planning versus the
Right,
input
and
from the planner.
I'm wondering if we should treat this revenue projection as the projection for the normal pools, decks, what you just said, and not inclusive of the new. Would that be a proper way to look at it?
Can I make a
We don't know.
suggestion? Is that it's always speculative, but
Yes.
we might just ask the administrator to take a look at it to see if, with the building inspector and his, and the planner, to see if it should be changed or not.
Yes,
I mean,
that would be wonderful.
to be conservative.
Well, right, what it sounds like is, now that I'm onto 2 books when I present the budget, hoping that everybody looks at all this information, is I'm going to add more pages to this, and it will include a projection of those steady state, steady stream additions, remodels, amenities versus new construction, and you can weigh the evidence for yourself.
I'd like to get my question in now.
I thought you did, I forgot to.
I just want to know if you could tell me what's really changed in the last couple of years, because for 2.5 years, Kate had a contract where she was part-time planner, part-time clerk, administrative assistant, or officer, administrative officer. And, she might have gone to meetings at night, but during the day, she didn't work 40 hours, and she had comp time. And now you want to replace her with like 2 people. I'm just wondering if we need all that, and then once you put these people, you can't ever get rid of them, with the union workers and everything. And, I mean, I know that there are things that's supposed to be coming down the pike, but nothing has been written in cement, like this casino or any malls or anything. So I think you're putting the cart before the horse, and it's a little upsetting with what we need for the schools to be adding new, growing government when we need to, look at other things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, answer it first.
In years past, you had Kate filling her position in the Budget Committee, if I recall, 2 years ago, put $10,000 into the budget for part-time clerk in the zoning and building
And they
office.
never hired anybody,
So we didn't.
so
Um,
we need it, I guess.
No, the judgment was made that you needed a planner more than you needed that clerk. So, in the past, the judgment was made that the workload was high in that office and required additional assistance.
This here is not, this is a month's worth of work, and there's nothing there. Phone calls, quick, I mean, really.
I think that's a little unfair, though, because
Well,
I'm in and out of here, and
be
Mark is
realistic,
working
you know,
really.
somewhere in between, a lot of work and
First of all, the philosophy, I think, and Dave can correct me, we didn't really change anything in the planning department. We have Kate's position, and we have a planner. What we did do was, we decided that we needed to look into that office, where things are not getting done as they should be. The work's piling up. Jody is so busy answering phones that she's not getting the day-to-day stuff she needs to. She's got piles of paper that need to be filed. We have a lot of potential development coming around.
potential.
Okay.
is the word.
It is potential, but a couple of them are right here on our doorstep. We're going to be doing the soccer, and that's not potential. The soccer complex is going to go in the industrial park. If Neil doesn't get out there and do that work, and Councilman Souza has suggested that we have the state building official do it, the state building official gets the revenue, we don't.
Why can't you have a
Right.
per diem person
That
instead
is-
of a part-time person?
That is a revenue-driven department. And also, if they don't do their job correctly, that's where the lawsuits come.
Well,
When things aren't done correctly there, that's how we get such a big lawsuit problem. That building, part-time building inspector is a per diem almost. When Neil correct me if I'm wrong, but if he has a lot of bottom inspections, he'll call him in to do it. When are you available this week? That is an estimate of the amount of hours we'll need him a week.
Well, because it went from 12,000 to 18,000, that's why I'm...
That's because the job market, as I understood, we wouldn't get someone for 12,000. Neil felt that 18,000 was the more appropriate one.
When Neil tweaked that number, from my budget request to what he presented to the council, he paid for more inspections than I had budgeted.
And quite frankly, that is a very understaffed department, especially I don't know if you guys are in and out of here, but a lot of that time, that door is closed. That is shut off. And it's either that the clerk is out, she has a lot of vacation time, she's been working for us for a long time. She does have sick time. Neil's out of the office, so that is closed. The customer service goes way down. People have to come back the next day. People have to come down the next day. And they say, well, we didn't get it, we're just going to build it anyway.
But aren't there some things that can be done, like we were talking about over the internet?
Neil has explained that
You still need you can send anything you want over the internet. You still need someone on the other side of that internet to take that
But it's not
call.
the same as having 20 people standing there.
We don't have
doing it
20 people.
online.
We don't have 20.
No, I'm saying in line, they're
They-
doing it so that you do it at different...
I'm just going to give you my
different
name in
days.
case Cecil's watching.
I was going to tell you that. Cecil told me to make sure.
Cecil Dave Perry from Gravel Way. Just, Ms. Odell, to answer your question, there were 25 houses right now in this town being built.
Yeah.
25. So to say that nothing's going on, there's a lot going on. There's a potential, and it's a potential of 345 more coming within the next 3 years.
3 years.
within the next 3 years. So we gotta get ready.
100 a year.
We gotta get ready for this. You got a casino coming, and we're not gonna do all those inspections. You got a casino coming, believe me. And
Don't
it,
be touching the casino.
You don't know what the people are gonna vote it in. I mean, you know.
well, I'll talk to you later on about that one.
Okay, hold on.
But, and as far as NOVs being up, that's the reason why, because you don't have anybody going out checking. So you're gonna get a whole bunch of
Well, it's
NOVs.
just
We
that once
need
you
more
get
people.
Union people, you never can get rid of them, and it's just growing government without really.
We haven't really
We haven't-
added a lot of
we
new
haven't put-
positions since I've been here. This is some.
This is another one of those push the can down the road.
Right, and we
Push the can down the road. We
No,
can't keep kicking the can down the
Our
road.
buildings are falling apart, but you wanna put more people on.
No, we put money into
Can't
the
say they're not
buildings.
falling apart, because they are.
Guys, can we just hold on, let's.
What's that got to do with
Let's address,
people on?
Conversation's going here,
let's address,
and I'm not.
We're trying to
good at
take care of the people that we have in town by giving them services.
But
That's what
let's-
we're trying to do.
that. We're off track.
I just want, I can't let things that are profoundly wrong not be answered. We reduced the fire department by 4,
Yeah,
and the police department by 1.
yes.
And we're adding back 1 person a year later to provide better customer service to the taxpayers of the town, but to say that we don't have the courage or the gumption or the wherewithal to reduce our headcount is absolutely wrong. That is not what is going on. We had 32 firefighters, now we have 28,
Which was a savings of,
$250,000.
which we did this year with negotiations.
Can I just have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
That's true.
The
That is
part-time
true.
building inspector, how many hours do you foresee, or does you foresee that person working?
You'll know where I'm coming from with this. To keep things clean, for purposes of part-time being truly part-time, we won't schedule fixed hours for this individual. He'll be 1099, he'll be asked to be at work when he or she is needed to alleviate the workload so that we don't have anybody slip past their deadlines. Okay, so what Neil is working on is roughly about $30 per inspection, plus expenses for that individual to come.
Isn't that really a contracted service, though, not a salary?
It's a stipend.
thought that they were just switching it to
It's a stipend for
Well,
somebody
it's-
who doesn't work here?
This is wrong.
It's a,
1099.
well, whatever the heck you want to call it, John, it's not a salary.
No, that's my point. It's not a subcontract.
It's a s-
It's not a salary, but isn't it say
He'd
salary?
be paid the same way
Well, it's
that the electrical and mechanical inspectors
It's
are
there
paid.
as salary, that's my point, that's all.
Just the
Which,
nomenclature.
which infers that it's an employee.
They just don't have regular hours.
Oh,
Well, that's fine, but neither does a contracted
Are any of them
employee.
employed?
That's the only thing I'm trying to get across.
Well, be
Oh.
an
Thank you,
employee
John.
without benefits. They'll be getting,
No,
Well, you're right.
contracted service, it's not an
You're right.
employee.
Oh, that's a
You're right.
contracted
Hold on, now listen.
service?
You know,
So, I don't care what you call it, doesn't matter. We're spending the money for some service to be done, but it's not truly a salary. But
So there aren't benefits.
there's no-
No benefits.
no, it's strictly, we call you in,
I
you
just-
come
I
in, you
just-
work
Well,
for 3
that's why I
hours, you
say
get
per
paid 3
diem,
hours.
that's why I say per
Yeah, it's
diem,
a
and
per
salary
diem.
doesn't look like
This
per
Yes,
diem.
it's a per diem
Really an
position, I think.
independent
Yeah.
contractor.
You're right.
Yeah.
He would be a part-time employee,
like, that's what I'm
Okay.
getting at. He's a part-time employee
so things,
who doesn't have fixed hours.
yes, I
So
mean,
it's more like per diem.
Per
like
diem,
she
well.
said, but it would be a part-time.
But we
employee.
do prescribe his work. So,
So, yeah.
so you got two almost competing,
Trying to make it as
conditions about
gray
what's
as
involved.
possible, Mr. Chairman.
Huh?
Trying to make it as gray as possible. Just to make it clear
Like
that
what?
benefits will not be offered.
Good, okay.
I have a question on the land use clerk. What really is between the salary and the benefits? What's the real cost?
Fully loaded, $54,000.
$54,000?
Mhm.
And I was just going by the old sheet, but I thought what Kate in the planning department, Kate was getting 36,955.
And
Have you-
fully loaded, that would be.
Same
About the
thing.
same, 55. More because she was here, she had longevity, so 57.
But it wasn't in the other papers, so I thought like you were taking that and moving it to land use clerk, but it looks like it's now added in, so now it's 2.5 people? Is that what you're saying? There's gonna, it's,
No, there's Jody, a clerk, and then the part-time.
But there was already.
Let's talk about no.
no, but Jody's not new,
Right, Jody's not new.
but it's,
And the position of the planning clerk is not new. So those are the two existing positions.
so we're
new
talking
position.
1.5 people?
Right.
No, one half.
We're talking 1.5.
1.5.
There is a,
The part-time planner, the part-time building inspector.
Right,
And a full-time
and
clerk.
additional
that's why I'm
clerk.
saying 1.5 people.
okay,
Okay.
That is it's 1.5.
okay.
That's what we're asking.
1.5 new.
That's what the council feels is necessary.
One-
And that's what we put.
One full-time new person and a contracting.
And we don't easily put in new positions. I mean, since I've been on, I don't remember putting maybe one, but this was something that we needed. Do you remember me putting more than that on, Madeline?
Yes, in the last 4
planner.
years, yes.
The planner.
The planner, but there's been other part-time clerks, there's been other positions put on.
You know, the
Maybe
town,
they didn't hire them all, but they were put in the budget, and we don't, some of them, I don't know if they did.
the town is getting bigger, the bureaucracy is getting tougher. You can't do everything with nothing. At some point in time, you gotta have an
No,
incremental
all I'm talking about is
increase.
this year, we have the schools, you know, the bond for the schools and all
The
that.
schools have nothing to do with.
Like the schools,
planning
and
function.
believe me, I was at the school
Totally
level, and I know how
Comes
important
out of our
that is.
tax dollar.
Everything comes out of our tax dollars, okay?
But-
The school's budget projected is no increase.
They're
So
making up for it in the municipal.
there's nothing wrong with that.
If you have a
Why,
building,
if you've got the ability to be saving in one department, it doesn't mean you can't use that money somewhere else in the budget if it makes sense.
and if the building and zoning department has been such a sore spot and issue for the last decade and more, as the source of the lawsuits, the source of the issues, problems with permitting, people can't get things done.
You know, years ago, Glenn Steckman, when he was here, proposed a part-time zoning official for enforcement. And
How long ago was that, Reese?
that was...
But I don't want to do anything he did, so I take it back.
Glenn Steckman rode a horse.
10 years ago. And it was needed because we do not, and I'm not saying I'm committed to anything at
Right.
this point.
But the
I
town
do know
council,
that we have been lax in our enforcement. And it is something that if you don't enforce, then people get away with things, and people who abide are at a tax disadvantage. So you really have to, even the playing field and make sure you're applying rules fairly and to everything.
I think.
This is a good example of why this dichotomy exists between the budget committee, the school committee, and the town council. We sit in here and we hear a half an hour of something. You come in and you've got the benefit of an entire year of seeing how departments work, the department budgets. You've got a feel for what should be, you've got a plan for what should be. I'm reluctant to sit back here and say that your intense support of this position is not warranted. Because I think you've got a far better feel, you and Matt, about what's needed in the planning department than we do sitting here. The only thing I can tell you about the planning department is the door is right there. And-
But-
and
Shame on you,
so-
John.
Well,
John-
I haven't had to use them.
John, I agree, but you also agree that the Budget Committee's focus is different than the town council's. And the only thing I would say is, I think the tension we're all feeling is that there's a lot that's been lax in this town, including maybe cleaning up the planning department, but also, as we know from what we're looking at, the repairs and the infrastructure repairs that are necessary are mind-boggling.
Yes,
so.
they are.
Yeah.
And what happened last year with the budget?
But that's-
Even our budget got cut, so how the hell
Fine.
do you do maintenance?
Right, when you
can't
do,
approve
you
a budget?
can't.
It is
That's
what
how you
it
do.
is what it is, so you,
Well,
that's
that's
the balance,
exactly right.
that's the balancing that has to
That's-
happen.
Can we
right.
move on? I mean, we have a number of topics, and we're gonna be voting on
I-
these things
I-
up or down, so.
Yeah, I think we've beaten the hell out of it.
I just wanted,
I just have some copies of the potential buildings that are already in their final
We have that.
stages, pre-stages, completely done.
I think this was a hard decision for us too. We took many meetings to decide this. But we have to set priorities, and we have to look at the troublesome departments and how we can fix it as fiscally responsible as we can. And this is, we've added 1.5 positions, and, you know,
And you get feedback all year long from the residents of the town. We don't see that. We have no idea what they're out there asking for.
well, if you're
And
in
that's
this
what we
building
rely
at
on you
all,
for.
if you guys are in this building at all, you see what that part of the corridor is
Yeah,
like.
but we're not.
Right, and it is unbelievable some days. And it's
Council
cl-
isn't either, the planning department is.
I don't want to hear this crap about the budget committee has a different,
It's not crap, John.
I don't want to hear the argument that the budget committee has a different focus than the town council. This is it's a three bodies here whose focus is financially getting what we need done for the town. It's three-pronged, but one isn't fighting the other. We're not here to fight what the town council wants. We're not here to fight what the school committee wants. We're here to take a look at what their reasoning is,
Right.
okay? And if it's solid reasoning, then who are we to say no?
Because we have to have supporting evidence, that's what our job is.
Guys,
All right.
rather than argue this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I give up. So, I'll be quiet. What do we got next?
Can I give you dog a biscuit?
Yes, please do, before she eats this.
Plain about it.
You're the one, you're in all the trouble here.
I know, it's all the trouble, I just sit back here. Well, for the record, my name is Mark Russo, Town Planner. And you have the council's approved budget in front of you for the planning department, I believe. And if you look at it, it really hasn't changed that much from last year. You were just talking about the planning department clerk, the position is currently vacant, going to be filled. We eliminated longevity, that probably wasn't necessary at this point. And the rest of the items like telephone, there are actual costs and needs. Let me see, one thing will be the education and seminars went up to 1,000 from 500. That's to maintain my American Institute for Certified Planners designation, seminars and courses I have to take as part of the contract. Publications went from 100 to 1,000. For $795, within that $1,000 is a subscription to the American Planning Association's Planning Advisory Service. What it basically is a virtual library resource available to us if we want to do some work in town. I can give you an example, development impact fees. They'll help us with research and models and legalities and an extension of my staffing sources. So everybody can use that in the town, the planning board, any board, commission could share in that resource, give us an extra library of services. So that's what's there. Then the computer upgrades from 250 to 1,000, that has to do with an extension on the GIS system to enable us to do some modeling on build-outs and what will happen if we change zoning, what the build-out impacts are on the community. So more modeling, planning modeling is what we're trying to do and build up that system. So those are some of the minor changes. That's basically it.
Is that a one-time software purchase, or is it a?
It is a one-time software purchase. Yes. It's an extension of ARC GIS.
What's the staff salary in the planning department?
The staff salary is the clerk, 36,955. It may be less depending on what we're hiring,
Okay.
right?
So, in code enforcement, who's the building and zoning clerk?
That's,
And who's the land use clerk?
well, Jody's the building and zoning clerk.
Okay.
And the new clerk position hasn't been filled.
That's the land use zoning.
Well, we'll call it clerk with the zoning. We get rid of the land use
Okay,
word.
it's under code enforcement.
Yeah, it's.
Okay, now you have a staff salary in the planning department.
3 different job classifications in the contract.
Okay,
So Jody is classified as a senior clerk.
okay,
So that salary, that 38,641 is the senior clerk's base salary.
okay.
We anticipate posting Kate's old position, the planning clerk position. And you have to budget for what might happen realistically. When we post a union position, you may get a lateral transfer from within the bargaining unit. And that individual will already be at the top step. Okay? So
Yeah,
you budget that
understand.
top step, second tier clerk. But if the town were to hire another person in the zoning, again, you're posting it to the unit, and that would reflect
Can
that lowest tier
you
of
all do me a
classification.
favor? I don't know Kate,
Yeah.
so I don't know Kate's position.
Planning clerk.
Okay, would you just refer to it as planning clerk for me, please, so that I know what the.
Other people don't know who the planning clerk is, so I refer to it as Kate.
I know.
Because it was the person they
But-
dealt with.
It's confusing because it says over here zoning and planning new clerk,
Right,
and then you've got staff salary for planning versus a clerk.
yeah,
So it's like, that's why that's what we're all confused
that's,
about.
that's confusing to me.
Yeah, the red line I drew about half an hour ago should still be there. Take those
Okay.
words off of your plate.
There are
That
2
job
clerks in the
description
building
was
inspector's
denied.
office. There's 1 clerk in the planning office.
Correct.
And just have clerk.
There's one clerk in
I think the
the
plan is-
building committee's office, hold on a second.
There are 2 clerks in the building department.
There's only one.
In
Right
the-
now,
Right now, there's one.
right now, there's one.
Correct. And there
There's
has
gonna be a second one.
Correct. In code enforcement in the building inspector's office. And then there's 1 clerk in the planning department.
So zoning and planning is, in parentheses, is a useless set of parentheses?
Take them out.
Yes, eliminate it.
Good, okay. The salary in the code enforcement, Jody's salary, let's put it that way, the only way I can describe it,
I don't know who
is
Jody is.
strictly
Who's
built,
Jody?
is strictly a building clerk?
We're on planning
Still,
department.
is still,
Who's on
is
first?
strictly code enforcement?
Now, why can't you do with a part-time, like we were putting
Okay, so
before?
it's not a zoning clerk.
I don't know why
Am
this
I-
is so hard. She's one person right now, she does building and zoning.
Okay, so her job is
That's
split.
her job. She's a
It's-
senior
okay,
clerk.
All right,
And they come
and she
together.
covers building and zoning.
Correct.
Okay, nobody else does that.
Nobody else.
Okay, got it. So when you get down to the planning department clerk, strictly planning department business.
Correct. That's the way this is set up now.
Gotcha.
Correct.
So
Okay.
why can't you put the new person as part-time, and why do you need it full-time?
You know,
Oh, in the-
I have a hard time with that, Madeline, because, once again, we pay people to get jobs done, and it's
I'm asking a question.
it's their responsibility to come back to us and advise us how they best need it done. Okay, well, you can ask all you want, but we can extend this meeting till midnight, too.
No, we're not.
Okay, I think it's been covered pretty well, that they have a damn good idea of why they need 3 clerks. And I'm not gonna harp on that one. I mean,
Miss Odell.
You got staff people and town council that says that we need that position. That's good with me.
The full-time clerk is only a replacement, that's all it is. Kate left, you're putting a new person in
I'm
there.
not talking about that, I'm talking.
The other one is the new one.
Is a
So the
full-time.
that 40-hour, 35-hour one is there. They should, technically, it shouldn't come before the council or the budget committee, because by contract, that has to be filled.
Already there.
It has to be
There's
filled.
one new one, that's the one I'm talking about.
Okay, the new one, yes.
Yes, that's
But
the one- that's
let's
all I'm
not,
talking
let's not
about.
go back on the other one, because that's by contract.
I'm not talking about that one, I wasn't
Okay.
talking about that one.
Some people were.
Well, some people, like me, didn't know which one they were talking about. Sorry. But I'll repeat what I said. If the council, with all their vetting of the budget and And the town administrator, with his vetting of the budget and preparation of it, if they say that's absolutely needed based on the workload of the town, I'm not one sitting here to say no to that. Because I don't know what the workload is of the town. I don't know what the workload is in here in every office. The people that we pay to manage it are telling us that it's needed.
John, you can't go that way, because we've had
I can.
town administrators here that told us one thing and it was just the opposite.
Well, until such time as he does that to me.
I'm not saying anything about that.
I know I'm not, and I know you're not.
The day I do that, throw me out.
But until such time as he does that to me, then I'll deal with it when I deal with it. Up till now, he's been straight, and I'm gonna deal with it straight.
Come on, Louise knows what I'm saying. Where's Glenn when you need him?
Pardon me?
We're gonna take that approach with everybody who works here.
Inside joke.
We'll be down to 2 people. They'll be making $100,000 a year, and we'll save a lot of money. All right? What do you got?
Well, that was it for the planning department.
Okay.
Pretty cut and dry, actually.
Mark,
Yeah, it is.
I have one question on the publication, the 2 last ones.
Yes.
Is that something that can be obtained on the internet? Like the
The subscription service, no.
okay.
I mean, I can access through the license here, we can, in this town hall. I mean, generally accessible, no. Subscription services, in-house.
Okay, planning board?
I'll do that one. No one here from planning board. The council approved this budget also. Administrative officer stipend was eliminated. Supplies and miscellaneous, $1,000. Put a little something in there, down from last year. The professional technical services, that's if we need to use our outside consultant or engineer to do some work on, say, a subdivision that's an old subdivision, no longer have any particular money available to do some work, some survey work, inspection work, build out, whatever. So that's necessary if we have to draw down on that, old subdivisions. And then we've got computer upgrades, that's the replacement of the computer in the planning department office downstairs. The comprehensive plan, advertising and printing. We're hoping to finish off the comp plan this year. This fiscal year shortly, get into the state, move that along, have our public hearings, have a workshop, and then advertising and doing the printing in the next fiscal year, finish that project off. So, and then the subdivision regulations to finish off. That's really basically a couple of 2 or 3 public hearings, advertisements, and make some changes to our rules and regulations that'll sorely needed in fees and other areas. So that's just to keep us going and business as usual.
Denise, what did you have in mind when you added $1,000 in 2 different places here to the town administrator's request? Do you remember? Just kind of curious.
With supplies?
Education seminar?
Education, the planning board had asked, most members had asked for some money in there to go to seminars.
Okay.
And they
Fine.
put that in, and also supplies they asked.
If you look back at last year's petitioner's budget, it got cut. They cut all seminars from every department, they cut all supplies from every department.
that's good.
They got a
That
pretty
makes
good track record of just cutting certain items from
Why
departments.
not?
So you're putting it back in just because it got cut before, or
Yeah,
is it-
because they need to go to seminars, they need to go to get educated, they need training.
I think the planning board should go to a number of seminars and be educated in the processes and the laws. It's very important.
I'm going to stand up here and say something. This man doesn't get enough credit for what he's doing. Come and spend a day with him and find out all the stuff that he's finding that wasn't done before, that he has to take care of now. And that's why he needs the help. Come down and spend a day with him. Spend an hour.
Well, I got no problem with him having the help, because to me, it's not a job that can be done by one person in 80 hours a week. So. Thank you.
What happened with the administrative officer, the 8,000?
Well, the minister, I'm basically, I am, well, I'm the minister, well, both of us. I am the administrative officer
Right.
now, got the 1-year appointment.
Right,
It was merged within the salary that I'm getting.
that's what I wondered.
That was a decision of the town
Okay,
administrator.
okay.
Okay, what else we got with planning? We got it
That's
pretty
it.
well covered?
I think
Any
so.
questions, any more questions? All right,
We're
thanks,
good.
guys. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You can go home now.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
again.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.
You can come back anytime you want. I mean, and you don't want to stay home. I mean, this beats the hell out of television.
Thank you.
Thanks. Zoning board.
Stenographer, that's all it is.
It's what?
Stenographer.
Okay. That much, huh?
Yeah.
Do we need somebody? No, never mind.
Stop.
Okay, we'll get through that part. Now we get into a little more nebulous discussions here. Health insurance.
All right.
Let's try to get through this line before we leave tonight.
You can try.
Can make a concerted effort to try to keep it moving as much as we can.
I'll do the best I can, but I'm not going to
Wait,
do a short trip.
No, I don't want you to. I don't want anybody to. By the way, while I'm on the subject, I think some of you have on your agenda a note in there about we're going to
Just recess?
just recess. That's not true.
It's not?
No. Because if I want to put anything on next week's agenda, I can't recess this week. So we'll adjourn as we normally do and reconvene at the next meeting. So I found that out after I had put that note on there.
Okay, so these should replace the pages in the book or supplement?
Replace.
In our volume.
Correct.
The missive.
The insurance line in the budget accounts for all of the insurance products bought by the town. This first line, 2190, 7925, several products, our general liability coverage, our property and casualty coverage, and our workers' compensation. We get that, we pay that immediately, and we get the rate set for us very soon. We've been on a steady straight line increase, more or less, for the past several years, of just about a little bit more than 7%, so we did get a reduction. I'm sorry, I don't know how we ended up with 394 last year. We've reduced our asset, our total list of assets. I had to go through it with the fine-tooth comb and eliminate a whole bunch of things the town doesn't own anymore.
I had noticed that.
Yes, and, so, yeah, it took a long time. It was unpleasant, but I'm very confident with this 374, 850 number reflects those various products at their natural rate of inflation, year over year for the past 5 years.
Thank you for doing that. Right, so the 394 was really an aberration.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we actually are going to spend 394 this year. No, we're not. Group insurance for health.
Yes.
So not to hurt anybody's eyes or anything, but I am very much opposed to the way the budget has been traditionally presented on this line item. I don't think it captures the underlying complexity of how the town buys health insurance. And I'll try to summarize as quickly as I can. We buy all of our health insurance products through the interlocal trust, which is basically a mutually insured, self-insured group that most of the municipalities in Rhode Island pool our risk. And then as we go through the years, our rates are set as a function of our claims experience as a pool. So the pool actually helps us smooth out these year-to-year volatile trends in claims.
What's the name of the trust?
Interlocal trust. Each and every employee group is separately rated by the trust, and we pay that rate, the premium, according to the risk rating of each individual group within our active employees and within our retirees. So this is the summary page. Set it aside for a moment. I'll come back to it. The first group I want to talk about is the only group that is not in the trust. We buy the health and wellness plan for the Teamsters, which is a plan that is written by United Health. It's the only United plan that we have, and it's all in health, dental, life, accidental dismemberment, and death, all in one product. And we pay one premium, and that premium is determined through the Teamsters contract as an hourly rate times the number of hours that the gentleman works, and it's capped. It's capped at 1,800 hours a year. So what we do is for the budget, we plan out that each individual employee reaches the cap, and they do, times their hourly rate. That's the annual premium per member is just, this year, it's just about $17,932.50. We have 10 of them, so we pay that $179,325. For the last 3 years in the contract, the interesting thing about the Teamsters contract is they actually lock in these dollar amounts in the contract, and they locked in at a 4% year-over-year increase, which is unheard of in healthcare. The rate of inflation in the healthcare sector is 8%. So these guys are at 4%. So the plan is rich. It's a little bit more expensive than the fully loaded HSA high deductible plan for the town hall employees, and yet, year over year, it's much more stable and much more predictable. This other slight wiggle to this, they do have a co-share. They're the only union that has a co-share. It's very small, it's only 4%. Think about the logic of this, though. Every year, their premium goes up 4%, but they have a 4% co-share. So it's this built-in smoothing that they've just built into the contract. Year over year, really, it just never goes up more than 4%. So next year, factoring everything in, we'd be at 175,709. So that is the premium minus the co-share.
So, but you are in contract negotiations with the Teamsters, right?
Correct.
But there's no expected. Change. You can't do anything about it, you gotta predict what you have. So we're going with
Correct.
what you have.
So that's with the 4% that you predict. Well,
I'm predicting current conditions forward, not what I'm planning on asking for in negotiations. I have no intention of asking for this to stay this way. But I doubt the savings that I'm asking for would be significant enough to really make a whole lot of difference. The next page is a summary of everybody. And I said, Nancy, I said I'd do this for you. So if you compare the next two pages, we have actives versus retirees. So just for the record, actives, just about 1.6 million requested in the budget. Retirees, just a little bit less than 800,000. So that 779,197 number is benefits paid for retirees who no longer work for the town, may not have worked for the town for many years, and that is the number that most people would call OPEB, other post-employment benefits.
It's the pay-as-you-go part.
So the town right now has almost nothing in its OPEB account, and we pay as we go. If you had an OPEB trust account with a significant balance in it, you would be paying this expense out of your OPEB trust. And it wouldn't be in the operating budget. But it would be, but it wouldn't be hitting the levy. So that's just a general note.
Well, it would sure hit the levy to get it in there from the get-go.
Unless it was unanticipated revenue, I don't know. Yep.
Your figure of 2,317,897. is, how do you get there?
That's what I'm explaining.
Well, okay.
So on these 2 pages, the actives and the retirees, what you have is every single product we buy, the number of people who are in that product, the annual premium for that product, and then I do a scenario. What if it was 4% increase? What if it was 6.73, which is a magic number? What if it was 8%? And I budget to what I think is the prudent call, which is 8% for most of these groups. I won't explain every single one of these codes or notations. I will only point out that I've captured as much richness and as much detail as I can here based on the census I have right now with the employees we have right now. We have 5 police officers who opt out. And all the rest of our employees, we have one firefighter, the fire chief, who opts out. Everybody else is in our insurance, and this is the product they're placed into. Police and fire, as an operation of state law, are covered with work-related injury, WRI policy, and you can see there's 2 lines here with that notation, WRI. That's an extra policy put in place for public safety employees. So that's the 3rd line of the chart and the 6th line of the chart. You gotta look at what I put in. Yeah. Just to draw your attention to the retirees for a second, just so you understand the sometimes Alice in Wonderland world that we live in, we have retirees who are still covered with Blue Cross Blue Shield Classic, which is $22,000 a year.
And they're over 65.
And they're over 65.
Yes, I know that.
Okay? There have been more recent changes to the approach the town takes with employees, and now with some of our unions, when they reach 65, we simply purchase a Plan 65 supplemental product for them, and they go into Medicare. So you see that Plan 65 line, look at the monthly premium's $200, as opposed to a classic family plan at $1,800 a month. That's the kind of difference that these negotiations make. So when you add up all those products, you get your 779,197. So then how do I arrive at the final number? Go back to my summary page. You add up your actives, your retirees, and your opt-outs, because we pay those
Right.
gentlemen 50%.
And you come to 2,308,511.
2,408,511 is the total exposure of the town.
Okay, less the stabilization.
So the trust is a mutual insurance relationship. The premium assets, the premiums that we pay are invested into assets that generate a return, and every year there's an equity distribution of those earnings back to the members of the trust. Those funds may be used for premium stabilization.
What was it this year?
A lot. I knew you were going to ask, and I don't. It's over $100,000 a month, a full month's worth of premium.
All right.
And that's very important when you compare what I've asked for this year compared to what I asked for last year. Last year, we had a very large equity distribution. It was so big that the trust required us to use it per premium. And we paid almost a whole month's worth of premiums out of it. So, but we don't have that experience this year. This year, the equity distribution that went directly to premium stabilization was $50,000. We're carrying a balance in the carryover account for premium stabilization of about $136,000. I may need to use about 30 of that to finish this year. I want to use the other 100 to offset the total exposure of the town to get to 2,308,511, which is a little bit of a wrinkle from the council's number, because I had an opt-out, which was a significant amount of money. So just between the time they approved the budget and today, there's been a change.
And that then explains the difference of 9,000.
Correct.
Okay, well, that was my question.
I'm sorry, that was a long-winded answer to such a simple question. Yes, we had an
There
opt-out.
was an opt-out.
Okay, so we're safe with the 2,308 number.
Yep. And I don't do that to frustrate people, I do that to try to be accurate, it's a big number. In the final analysis, that is the town's total exposure to premiums for the year upcoming, because I budget every vacancy as a potential family plan purchase. Because if that is actually what happens, I have to have the money in this account to pay for the insurance. But more often than not, many of our new employees, our young employees are single. But if I lose a single and pick up a family, it's all going to be a wash in the final analysis.
So,
Am I right that it's about a 8% increase from that prior, given all the
Right, so
opt-outs and the...
this time of year is kind of like watching the Powerball lottery drawing, because the trust, this is the time of the year when the trust comes and announces to us what their rate, what the town's rate will be for next year. They use 2 quarters worth of claims experience to generate that number. Now, I was much afeared about 6 weeks ago because I was looking at our claims experience and it was off the charts. At the schools, we were 142% premium to claims to premium, sorry. And the town, we were only 107%. So I thought, regardless of co-share, that the schools were going to drag us into a big rate increase. But the co-share is so significant on the school side, by function of their project, their negotiations, that they didn't come out with any increase above and beyond the pool, the underlying pool's increase. Tiverton as a whole will be up 6.73%, but that includes the schools. Our HSA products, this is where I don't like the language, will be slightly higher. So I budgeted 8%. I thought that slightly, I want to capture slightly with the 1.3% add to the 6%.
these stabilization funds that we're using, so the total exposure is what, if we didn't have the stabilization funds, that's what we would owe.
Yep.
Now, our.
So last year was almost-
Next year when we don't have the stabilization funds?
A very timely question, thank you for asking it. The gentleman used the, I kind of have a style with the way I do things. I'm out in the market right now, so I'm looking at alternatives to the trust. I'm looking at a fully insured product, which may be a HRA, FSA, private sector modeled plan. And I've also spoken to another broker who wants to price out a self-insured national carrier arrangement.
So we're looking at different
So-
insurances, and I get that.
So I'm going to try to come to the table and get a additional rate stabilization out of anybody who's willing to do business with us. It's a lot of work, but it's worth
Was
it.
the rate stabilization that, yeah, I can imagine. The rate stabilization that we got last year, was that an unusual occurrence?
No, you know what it was? The town banked its equity distribution for years. For years and years and years. It was never a whole lot of money. Last year, it actually was a lot of money. Our actual free-to-use was 80,000. So that meant they almost, they put more than that directly into rate stabilization. But they also capped our rate stabilization account. They said if you're above a certain amount, you must put it back into premiums. So we did.
Matt, when the town sometime after 2010 went to the HSA
Mhm.
program, there was a concern, even expressed before that that could be detrimental to the town. Because the copay is fixed, it's not a percentage, so forth. The school opted out. They did not go with the HSA, and as it seems, as I listen to you and have heard from others, that their rate did not go up as much as the municipal side.
Mhm.
So, can I assume that you're looking at the HSA as, I know it's in the contracts, is it not?
Mhm.
That when the time comes that we'll be taking a look at that and see whether it's cost effective or not so?
Yes, it's a very good read on it. I think what you more or less did by going to the high deductible HSA plan, you were able to recognize in 1 year a substantial savings that made that step attractive to the town, and you actually saved about 10% doing so. So it's right there on this summary page. So in fiscal 11, you were at 2 million, fiscal 12, you were at 2 million, fiscal 13, 2 million, and fiscal 14, 1.8 million. So when you switch that product, you saw those savings start to come through. The problem was that it, as you say, it exposed you to greater rate increases in the future because that stabilizing effect of the co-share was eliminated. And now, I'd rather open a conversation about doing away with HSA altogether than open up a conversation about increasing the deductible. I think that would be a rabbit warren.
Oh, that's good to know.
But this will be a fascinating process. We may be one of the, I was told today we would be the first active member of the trust that would go to market outside the trust, even just for a point of an estimate.
Have you heard, I heard it on the TV, that like some of the companies, the larger insurance companies like United Health are opting out of, as of next year, of Obamacare because they're losing so much money. So there might be a great changes in healthcare to begin with because of, it's not, Obamacare is not working.
I'm going to cast my vote for a presidential candidate that might have a better answer than I do to that. On this end, I'm a customer. I'm just trying to get the best price for the
I
town.
think it's up in the air. I don't think we even know what's going to happen.
Right. All things held equal, I have to budget right now for what
No,
I expect
understand
might
that.
happen.
And life insurance is going down?
Ah, yes. So if we're done with health, I like talking about life. Dental is just, it's not an expensive product. It's going up. And it's at the rate suggested. Life insurance is down a lot. There's one piece that doesn't change. For so many years, the town was overcharged for life insurance to the point where the town negotiated a contract with the firefighters union and asked the firefighters to buy their own insurance through their national union, which they did, and saved the town a bunch of money. So now these guys, that's the part, it's about $7,700 a year. Next year is what I've budgeted for the firefighters insurance. $7,700. There won't be any change for them. But for the town, we were dropped, basically. AIG dropped us. And we went back to the market, and we were denied the current coverage. We were not allowed to continue to do what we have been doing, which is treating both the retirees and actives as one pool and rating against the whole shebang, which meant we were paying out the nose for our active employees. Yeah. Oh, it gets better, hold on. So we couldn't continue to do that. So we broke up the two groups. And the retirees, who have always paid their own way, by the way, we don't pay their premiums, they were just in our group, being rated against our entire group. They are now going to be rated against their own market risk. So they will pay premiums associated with either of two levels of coverage that they might want to have. If they want to stay with $50,000, they'll pay $147 a month. They can cut that in half if they go to $25,000 in coverage. But they sure as heck won't be paying what we're paying, which will be closer to $22 a month for our actives. So basically what I was able to do is cut our life insurance in half by going to that model. Along the way, I kind of sort of noticed that for years, at least 6 years, the town has double covered the Teamsters. Because we were buying life insurance for them, and it was already in their union plan.
Nice.
So when I brought that to the attention of the business agent, he said, well, you're in compliance with the contract if you buy our plan, so drop us. So we got more savings out of it. Yay, us. Oh, we won one for once. I wish it was more money. It's not. That's insurance.
So the real increase is in the healthcare, roughly.
Correct.
Close to 300,000.
And that's going to be 1/3 of the increase in the budget. The entire municipal budget from this year compared to last year's FTR budget is explained by that one line item, health insurance. Because this year, just to, everybody remembers, we masked the impact of a 13.3% increase in our rates by use of premium stabilization funds. But now this year, our 8% is going to compound on top of that 13%.
Craziness.
And so that's, to me, that's one of the most shocking things. Nothing else that we buy has gone up 20% in 2 years.
Awful.
But that's the reality. Okay?
Thank you for putting all of this together. Mind-boggling.
Anything, we all set with health insurance? You all set?
God, I hope so. Yeah.
So do I.
Can I just go review these figures that should add up to this, your new figure? I can do that.
Sure.
What do you want to head to? You want to do pensions next? That's the next thing on the list. I mean,
Sure.
I'm not sure time frame wise what we're doing, but
Well, for the other municipal pensions, it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
You get
Right.
a number from the state and that's it.
okay.
But municipal has gone down.
We are, I can't resist taking this swipe. You'll forgive me, Mr. Chairman.
You might guess.
The town's MERS accounts are overfunded. So, there's little actuarial classes on this ridiculously detailed spreadsheet that I put in your books with the 5.5 font. If you look at it, if you look at our funding levels, Town of Tiverton Municipal is 123% funded. Fire is the only one that's not 100% funded, and they're at 80-something% funded. So my swipe at the universe in general is the state pension fund underperforms and overpays fees. The Town of Tiverton dutifully makes its contribution to the MERS system to subsidize, even at a small amount, still subsidizing this
Horrible plan.
not-so-good plan. But I did, because once in a while I like to play naive, I was at a league meeting and I said, hey, does anybody ever try to withdraw from the MERS? We can't. It's not allowed. So,
And you also have to consider the volatility of the market.
Sure.
Effects.
it's going to affect Cranston a lot more, though, at their 20% funding
Because
level
they
than us at
have to deal with
120%.
the fund. If the market is up,
Yeah.
don't quit.
The
So-
target level was 80%.
Mhm.
We have 120.
Because they just keep charging us and we keep paying because we have to.
You can't not pay, it's craziness. No craziness.
How can one town be overfunded and another underfunded?
Because we're all together, we're one big happy family in the MERS.
Yeah, right, aren't we lucky?
Who tells us we're happy?
Subsidizing the other.
No.
Because for years, they never made contributions.
Oh, okay, thank you.
That's
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the cities and towns that are in the biggest trouble with the pension plans never paid their money into it. Never paid their share, what they were supposed to,
Into the MERS pension plan?
into the state pension plan.
Is it Providence one of them?
It's probably, I don't know exactly who they are, but I know a lot of them. Cranston, Warwick.
I didn't put the funding,
And
I
you
did,
just got, what, your hands slapped if you didn't do it? And we
Nothing.
were just always good, and we always paid into it.
Providence didn't pay for over 10 years.
yeah, Cranston neither. Well, they have private pension plans,
So there's,
but,
okay.
yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me that we would continue to pay in at the same rate if we're over.
They do adjust our rate year to year. The point is, we really don't need to pay at all. You see my point? At the municipal, the ER rate for municipal employees is like 2% of gross.
Right.
Firefighters, it's 15%. they're doing their actuarial magic. That's how they arrive at these figures. I'm just reacting to the overall funding level. But there's nothing we can do about it, and that's how I get these numbers. So we take our gross, it's a multiplication problem. It's our gross salary in that line item for each rated group times the percent that the actuaries assign to us, and that is what we fund these accounts.
Okay, and then there's, how long do we see this employee special retirements? Is it 2 people or 1 person?
I thought it was 3.
It should,
Okay.
but it is a lifetime.
There's some questions I just don't want to ask around here. Anything that's special, anything that's in the budget marked special,
Yeah.
don't ask.
You know, when you compare certain things, some numbers just jump out at you.
Yeah.
Is the overall cost of the pensions for everybody, well, except for the police, fire, municipal, is $492 for the whole. The jump in healthcare is $300,000 in 1 year. So, I mean, I know you can't compare them, but it just is a number valuation.
It boggles the mind.
I mean, the pensions are not a huge, MERS, not a huge factor. It's, I mean, anything is, but when you think of the number of people covered.
Well, if you want, as long as we're comparing different fruits, look at your retiree healthcare costs
Yeah.
at $779,000 and this pension at $492.
Yeah.
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 You know, those were the days when you got health. No raises, but everything else.
Yep. It was cheap.
Well, it was cheaper that year, and then the chickens come home to
Cheap,
roost.
exactly.
So,
Okay,
Anything left, Mr. Chairman?
debt service and capital?
Debt service,
You mean the ominous page 3?
I'm not quite clear on it.
So please use the page 3 on this council-approved budget that I handed out.
The Ranger School. Okay, Ranger and the high school bond were refinanced.
Correct.
Okay. So I see a new line item for Ranger, yet I see the old line item also.
You know.
It's still not right, Laura?
Oh,
No,
I'm sh-
I think they are right. I
They are
think-
right,
I
but
don't- I just don't
I can't
understand
explain
it.
it for you without Denise's help.
Okay.
Yeah.
The debt service part?
Yes. So you're on page 3, the top.
See, and then it's interest payments.
Do you
It's
know?
costly.
Well,
but
one's
yes,
principal, one's
I-
interest.
What happened is, I
Right.
think that the call period for Ranger is a year.
After.
is, A year, and it's like May 15th of 2017. So why, I'm not privy to why they put them together, but I suspect it was to make it cost-effective to have 2 bond issues. The call period for the high school was May of this year. But until the bonds are called in 17, there is interest and principal payments that you have to pay until that date.
So we,
Fair statement.
yes, so in my layman's way of saying
So
that, we
we're-
pre-refunded Ranger. We refunded it a year early, and
But
we're in
we
this
have
like
to pay
stasis
the
account. that
Principal
we're-
and interest,
Okay, so it's
Until
like
that
we have a bond payment for 1 year and then it's gonna go away.
Yes.
that's right. So, as Denise said, and she underscored, after 17,
This goes away.
you will see a substantial reduction.
Which will disappear, or which will be reduced?
The Ranger School,
Principal and interest line?
The top line,
the top line.
all of it will. The principal,
Should go away,
that first
but-
Ranger School
Right.
$10.7 million
Yeah.
bond,
Right.
that will go away.
Right.
and we'll be left with THS and Ranger refunded.
And I suspect as they looked at the amortization tables, the savings from the refunding bonds more than offset what we'll have this year, the expense of this year through 17.
We're not adding to the time on these bonds, are we?
No.
No,
We're just changing the rate of interest.
yes.
Correct. And, thank God that this is actually prescient, because if the town were to go out to bond again, and we hadn't refunded Ranger ahead of time, Ranger would have had to have been refunded at whatever our bond rating might be with the additional bond, which would have been,
And
I would speculate, won't be the
suspect
same.
as she goes through the next refunding, we'll see a very similar pattern. I don't know. It would depend on the underwriting.
Well, we're looking at the next one, which
Is
So-
18.
is in 18, we're looking to pre-refund that one on the same basis that we did Ranger.
Yeah.
She's been up to Rybeck a couple times already.
What's the payoff on the tip deck? The year payoff?
Oh,
2020,
2021?
2021 is the first one that's been.
2022 is what we had on
Yeah,
last year.
it'll be the
That
first
didn't
year you
change.
don't have anything.
Right.
Now, you already refinanced the TIF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I look at the bottom line, I'm having a hard time grasping
I know.
this mathematically. Because we added, essentially, we added a line that's 500,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
We took away 300,000 from the high school, and I see, we took about 300,000 away. Okay, so,
Just breaks it down more, that's all, the interest and the principal.
Yeah.
Separates it, that's all.
No, there's a netting that goes on.
and the library was on the books
Yes.
last year.
Yep.
Why did she not put the maturity dates?
Okay,
Bottom of this page.
she doesn't. That is not what she does.
Who does?
I started that, much to my chagrin.
Right, because it turned into a
Because now somebody else
kerfuffle.
has to do it. Because I'm not a paid employee.
Right.
Yeah, but they won't refund it. Well, they are. Refinance.
There's not much we can
Okay.
do about the bond
Not
schedules.
much.
No, except to understand it.
Yeah.
Yes. That's all I just wanted to make sure I understood what was going on with that. Okay. All right.
Capital? Now, if we're on capital, I got a question.
Okay.
I'm not certain this will work,
Mhm.
but I think we should at least think about it. The schools are going out for bond issue. Whether they'll make it, I have no idea. But we have very similar expenses on our capital. We have 2 roofs. We have a boiler. Why wouldn't it make sense to go to the schools and say, we should bond, tag on to your bond issue? Spread the cost over a period of time.
Makes it more expensive.
And save some money.
You're gonna pay interest though on it.
Yes, you will. You will pay
You're
rent.
gonna make the roof more expensive than it is if you pay for it.
I know, but you're spreading the cost over the taxpayers in the town who will be using it. I'm saying, if you want to reduce the tax rate, and I'm sure, Donna, that's something that's going to be near and dear to your
No, but
heart.
That's just smoke and mirrors.
No, it isn't smoke and mirrors. The school's going out. That's not smoke and
Then what
mirrors.
would the actual cost doing that be to replace the roof on the town hall that they're saying $67,000 with interest? The time that you're gonna have that bond would actually cost for that roof?
Well, it's a way of helping out the tax rate for the taxpayers, and that you could do the whole roof and do it right and not just do it piecemeal. Now, there's risks, but the cost of the bond issue is going to be paid for anyway. But I raise it just as it would free up some money and get the work done. Here's the downside.
But you're not freeing up money, you're just kicking it down the road. It's gonna cost almost
We
probably
don't,
double
bond
for the
issues don't
roof.
kick it down the road, Donna.
You're still paying interest on it.
Of
It
course
goes
you are
someplace.
paying interest, but
I can't go with that unless.
I'm not
unless I
saying
would
go with it, I'm
know
not
how much
asking
it would
for a
cost
vote,
the
I'm
roof.
saying, consider it. I mean, when the school goes out for a roof, they're not paying for it with monies, they're paying it over a period of time. What I'm saying is that if they were going out, you could even conceive of a joint bid, going out and perhaps getting a better price on all the work to be done.
Can we get a sense of what these items are and what the whole suite is that needs to be done before we approach the
Well,
issue
here's
of
my,
financing?
as I looked at various papers, Scott Times had a nice
Yes.
article, is the roof of this building, the roof of the East Tiverton, the boiler in East Tiverton,
So,
South Tiverton. Those are the smaller items. I'm not saying it's the absolute, it's a way of freeing up some other costs that could be used for other needs. And if you're going out anyway for a roof, it's not kicking the problem down the road, it's getting it done, and it spreads the cost in a fair way. That's all I'm
these are-
saying.
Right, so they're big items that aren't necessarily in this budget.
Mr. Chair, may I? In the interest of saving time, while it is a very good idea and it does spread the cost out, I believe the issue would be that the school's part of the bond issue is reimbursed
It
by
is.
RIDE at a rate of 39% if there's any energy efficient. I don't think the municipal part would be eligible for the reimbursement.
You're absolutely right, but it would be, and you would have in your bond disclosure that perhaps $150,000 would not be reimbursed.
Okay.
So you'd lay it out and be absolutely open with it.
Thank you.
Jim, don't run away.
Yes, sir.
On yeah,
I was going to be snide for a second and say, the superintendent could probably pay for all of my capital out of his year-over-year carryover and his surplus, and we wouldn't have to finance any of it. The Bank of Riddick might be open, we'll see.
one of the
Sorry.
items that's not on
Nobody
the
else is
cap,
laughing, so it wasn't.
one of the items that's
I
not
think
on the
it's funny,
capital list
too.
is the roof and the overhead ceiling at the Crandall Road Fire Station. And I'm going to ask Jim to go through, he and I and
Alex
Alex
and the chief.
and the chief.
And the captain.
fire- And the fireman there, spent last Tuesday morning over there for quite a while. And I'm afraid if something isn't done pretty quickly in that building, they're gonna have to stop wearing their fire helmets in the vehicle bay.
And that's on the list here, isn't
That's
it?
pretty nasty.
Yeah, I think there's,
Replace roof at
no, I
station.
think there's confusion, and I caused the confusion, because my focus was on the back building.
Yes.
And the way the water flows and pools up and ends up deteriorating that back wall. But that doesn't require a new roof, it's gonna require some work to fix it.
And that's fairly
But the
minor.
main building itself is probably the worst
So the
building.
three are,
Would you give a quick rundown on what needs to be done and approximate cost?
Well, very simply, there was about a foot of snow on that roof when we did the site visit, and that caused some of the confusion. Luckily, the roof structure is correct. There is a return ridge with pitched sides, and it does take the bulk of the water off. However, there was a improperly constructed, in the valleys, there were rain diverters put in. What that effectively did was it deteriorated the valleys on the roof. Not to a point of failure, but to a point that those diverters have to be removed and repaired.
This is the back building.
Yes, sir. That's the back building. The flashing on that back wall is sound, but the sealant, the elastomeric sealant, has deteriorated to the point where there are penetrations. That's also very minor, less than $100. The damage to the sidewalls is past damage and looks like it has not gotten any worse lately. The only real structural issue are the lintels above the doors, which are steel pieces of angle iron which support the block from the entrances up. If those have to be replaced, those could cost about $2,500 each. Besides that, there is approximately $3,000 worth of block repair to both walls, north and south. The overhead roof on the main part of the building, which is the forward where the equipment bays are, is approximately an 18-square roof. A safe number to use for a strip and re-roof is approximately $400 to $470 a square. That would include costs and materials associated with doing that work. Add approximately $1,000 for disposal. I think it would be in the town's interest to do what they did with the previous project, which would include leaving the rolling trailer dump. That would save the town about $1,000. The only two further points is there would definitely want to be a contingency substrate replacement in that spec, in the spec sheet. And the reason for that is, as Mr. Souza can attest, when we were walking around on that roof, there were areas we were sinking 2.5 to 3 inches. And I'm 230 pounds, that shouldn't happen.
So what are we talking about?
You're talking about the replacement of the firehouse roof.
Oh, I know that, but dollar-wise.
Less than the 35 that's in there, but at this time, I would leave the 35 in there. And the reason I would leave it in there is my last point. There is approximately no R-value protection to the ceiling of that building. Now, while the equipment is fine in winter temperatures, it would be beneficial if those ceilings were properly insulated and sealed. It would save the town a tremendous amount of money and energy. It would also help preserve the medications that are in the emergency vehicles that are susceptible to colder temperatures. Now, even adding a substrate contingency and an insulation contingency, that $35,000 that's in the line will cover it. And getting that additional work done is an important step in improving infrastructure in the town.
And the repairing exterior wall is in here for 15?
And it will be less than that, no matter what's found.
You talk about the ceiling?
Yes, sir, the ceiling inside, that's where I said that needs to be stripped away, it needs to be properly insulated. Yes, sir, I did say that. And it would save a lot of money in the long run.
So are you saying that the 35,000 is a good figure to use for replacing the roof?
The roof and that $35,000 would also cover if the substrate had to be changed and to properly insulate. So you're not only getting the roof done for that number, you're getting it energy efficient for that number as well, and structurally sound to the next generation, because if you resubstrate that building and you put a good roof on it, you now have a 60-plus year roof.
Okay, so what is the 15,000 for the exterior wall?
That wasn't my number, but what I want to assure you is that number is more than adequate to do everything found.
Yes, well.
Over and above what he talked about the roof.
That's a separate number. It's 15,000 just for wall repair?
Yes, repair exterior wall.
Yes, there are two walls. There's a south wall and a north wall. There are entrances on both. The north wall damage was caused because when the roof was done, there was no gutter there. And what happened was you had constant water penetration going through the substrate and into the block.
Right.
So there are a series of blocks. It's almost like a sawtooth, and they all have to be replaced.
Okay.
On the south side, there are less blocks, but there's also a lintel that shows excessive wear. In other words, because the can was kicked down the road, if those blocks were fixed the year they were broken, it would have cost us $100 to fix that wall.
So what's a more accurate figure than the 15?
Well, the reason I say to leave it is very simply, because if you find anything above and beyond and you don't have the money to pay for it, then you don't have the money to pay for it. But what I'm saying is for those two numbers that are in place, we're gonna get more than what is specified on there. And I think it's a good step to improving the infrastructure in town. We have a lot of buildings that have a lot of needs.
That 15,000, I'm not disagreeing with you, I just want to try and get the most accurate number we can for that, because that capital has to then stay in the capital.
That's right.
So we allocate, we say, we want to budget 15,000 for this. This is one example where we are appropriating.
Yes, and I would suggest, and I've mentioned this to the chairman as well as to Mr. Wojcik, excuse me.
Whoa, what were you going to call
Yeah,
me?
no, sorry, I
Hello?
apologize. Mr. Wojcik, what I've suggested is the same thing that was done with the senior center appropriation last year, which would be to change the wording on it so that you can spend it for what it's needed for. The actual wording on the senior center windows was senior center maintenance. The actual wording on the firehouse, on the two firehouse lines, would be much more efficient and streamlined if it was worded fire station roof, substrate, energy efficiency, and wall improvement.
Okay.
If you worded it like that, it could, that appropriation could be used for all of that.
Thanks, Louise.
Thank you, Louise.
Tell Abby we said hi.
We'll discuss my bond issue some more.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and also other things.
But I'm going to strongly recommend that the budget committee put that in.
Well, they're already in.
Are they already in ours?
They're in the council,
Okay.
the council
Okay.
has recommended it.
Okay. For,
We haven't put anything in ours
wait,
yet.
they recommended it for doing,
They're for the budget.
15 and the
It's in the
35.
council budget.
for next year.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was asking, okay. All right, so, and with a little luck, nobody will get hurt in the meantime.
No one will get hurt. In over 30 years in the trade's never been hurt on a job. If I get the job, there'll be no injury. But whoever gets the job, make sure they're harnessed.
So when
Absolutely.
can that get done? Do you have to wait until?
I believe we have to wait until the beginning of next fiscal year. I would suggest if you're getting closer to the end of the year and there's any money left in any account you can draw it from, flanges should be put on that station immediately, because the last heavy rainstorm, water was coming through those two 4-inch copper lines in buckets, according to Captain Comito. And flanges are about $10 a piece, plus the time to install them.
Some buckets.
They used large buckets the last rainstorm.
The ones they didn't have in my ceiling.
I thought they opened up the tank truck.
Okay, so I'm
They
saying
have money in building
are we
maintenance, they
gonna
could
do
use that
capital,
for
or
that.
are we gonna
That's
push
small
this
amount.
off to another date?
That's up to you guys as a committee, whatever you want to do.
Push it off to another day.
I think we've had, I think we've,
I'll motion
Thank you.
adjourn.
I think we've had enough for tonight. I
Can I-
think we're all fried.
Right, under the old business, can I just check? and make sure? I haven't yet received, maybe I did, maybe you did
fried when I
send it
walked
out,
in.
the police pension. Which?
Well, that's the same one Matt and I have been talking about. I can't find it.
What are we talking about?
So, did you send it back? Do you have
Police
it?
pension review.
Yes, I'll send it to you.
Can you send it to the whole budget committee?
Yes.
And if you're looking for it before I send it to you, it's on clerk base because it was disclosed to the council,
Thank you.
but I will send it to you.
That would be delightful if you could get, Nancy has our email address, that would be wonderful if you could get the police pension. And then, so what's left on the agenda, the list of agenda items?
Capital and,
Capital, and then let's start from the beginning and go through the budgets.
And police,
Well-
well, okay.
I guess we could talk about that on, is that close enough on here to business to, what? I got a feeling this isn't gonna be met with great approval.
What?
We've got a budget put together by the town council. My recommendation is we go through that budget line by line and make our recommended changes to it and go from there.
So So we always did.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
always did. So we always
We didn't, well, we didn't do that last year, I don't think, did we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay, then, when we start this, we're just gonna go through it. It's gonna be the basic document, and we're gonna go through it based on what we've discussed
That's what we did.
during the budget presentation. Is that what we did last year?
Yep.
Yeah, short memory.
Can add to it, take away from it.
Okay,
Vote as we go.
so we
As long as
should
we
be able
can
to start that
discuss-
process next week.
Well, we need to go through the capital and we have to, resolutions, we need to take some time for resolutions. And there was
Does anybody
also-
want to meet a second night next week?
There Denise,
See how far we got the first night.
were we gonna have Denise talk to us about
See how far?
finance, remember that financing?
Oh, except that's to the end of the week. If we want to do that, I would say have a meeting Tuesday night.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And,
See what's here first.
and then see where we are, and schedule one for Thursday night, and see where we
We're
are
not gonna
Tuesday
get it all
night.
done next week.
You might want to check and see who has the room Tuesday.
How many,
I was told it's already been,
It's open?
Tuesday is open.
Okay.
how many more weeks do we have to meet?
We have to get this has to be to Nancy the 8th of April.
We have plenty of time.
And if we start next week and go through this thing,
Right, start
Fairly
Thursday night at the
quickly, we
beginning,
can,
start at the
Thursday,
Capitol on
that's-
Thursday and just go from there.
we can go from there, that's fine
Start
too.
with capital and go from there. And we'll have the new police pension, when we get to the
Okay.
police pension, we can discuss it when we get there.
Fine.
Can I-
So we'll
Can I have a
set up a
moment?
regular Thursday night meeting.
Can I have a moment?
You're not invited.
Okay.
Because you didn't give your name and address.
Just Dave Perry, Bramble Way.
I'm gonna check that out. Does
To-
anybody know if he's telling the truth?
Just to Louise's.
I do, I know
Well,
what
The
that's,
meeting hasn't adjourned yet.
it hasn't adjourned.
Yes, we did.
To Louise's question about that roofs and the boilers and all that other stuff, there is a reimbursement coming back from that bond. If it goes out to, it's gonna go out to, we hope it's gonna go out to bond. The reimbursement is 39%. So what I would suggest was, that 39% comes to about $7,900, I think it was, Sally, something in that range, back to the town, and it goes to the general fund. Designate $1,500 of that $7,500 to the boilers and the roofs and whatever else you want. And that way it won't have to come out of the budget. Comes out of the reimbursement.
That's up to the council.
Well,
The reimbursement date is almost 6 million.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's almost 7 million, actually.
Almost, yeah.
So if you took 15, I don't know what her number was, and
Well,
designated,
that's assuming that the bond is approved and goes through.
if the bond is approved.
And that would be a
Correct.
long-term planning thing,
Correct.
because it wouldn't take, if the bond is approved, it's not gonna be,
2017.
it's gonna be 2018.
18, excuse me, you're right, 18.
So, I
Well,
mean,
they'll- I think that money starts to get spent in 2017.
well, I see your point, but let's, I mean, there's a lot of long-term planning, and I wanna talk about resolutions on how we wanna start funding a capital
Absolutely.
outside of using reimbursements that we may need because we don't want to,
I agree with you
we need that to
100%.
offset the debt increase. So, there are a lot of things at play, but it's a good idea.
Thank you.
I will take an motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to
So we
adjourn.
already meet now.
We already did.
We did? Oh, we already did? All in favor?